Swabian Spätzle. Schwäbische Spätzle. With just the original recipe and tools is something we will do today. That's how they look like. Not very uniform, but that's exactly how it should be. So for about 2 person we need 250 gram of flour, just regular wheat flour. 405 is usually the type I use, and a tablespoon of salt, usually take in a little less. And then I start mixing them dry usually at first, but that's not something most people do. So then we add 2 full eggs and 125 milliliter of water. You can use just plain cold water, but I usually add some water with CO2 gas in there. Makes the Spaetzle a little bit more soft, but it's not really necessary. Well, obviously, for the original recipe, we will not use such a machine, but it's really handy to use it, since you have to really stir it up a quite long time. I can't really say how much time it needs with that machine, but there is usually one criteria you have. If you stir with a spoon, it usually creates a little kind of bubbles if you mix, and that's kind of the criteria to stop. They're really thin, not really visible bubbles, but that's usually the end where you stop. So now we need a big cooktop of really boiling water. Add some, or quite some salt in there, and it's always important to have it always really boiling a lot. And then some cold water and a colander where I can put the Spaetzle afterwards to get them dried. Okay, so let's start. We use a spoon, wooden spoon for example, and put that on that wooden board, kind of the Spaetzle board called. And then we use the scraper, also kind of a special tool, but it's essentially just a scraper. And then we make the Spaetzle dough pretty kind of a thin layer on top of the wooden board. And then we use the scraper and cut small kind of lines and put them into the salty water. So let's do this part in slow motion. So we start by add again a thin layer on top of the wooden board, and then we use the scraper to kind of cut a kind of a couple millimeter wide line and push that into the boiling water. And on the way back, usually it falls into the water. Sometimes you have to scrap it a bit away from the scraper again with the wooden board, and just repeatedly doing this. Historically, make it this equal size was kind of the goal, but now you can really see it as they're handmade because they're not equal in size. So they don't really need to simmer a lot, but it has to really boiling really heavily. So since it's not the case, we just do something on the side. We just add the new dough and put it on the wooden board again, as we have seen before, while the other ones in the cooking top are still boiling. So again, use the spoon, put it on the wooden board, and then spread it, make a very thin layer of dough on the Spaetzle board. So the water is really boiling with the Spaetzle in there. So now I take a skimming ladle and just put it in the cold water for a short time, and then in the colander that the water gets out is getting drying now, so there's not sticking together and they're not sticking up too much water at that point in time. Well, they are done now. That's all it takes. But since there is still some dough available, you have to do it in a couple more rounds. Well, you can watch if you want or skip that section. I will just be quiet. Well, there's many rounds you have to take, so let's speed up the movie a bit to finally reach the end. The good thing, what I really like on this way to make it, there is different ways of course, obviously as well, is the non-uniformity. They really look handmade. Well, that's from my point of view, it only applies to the taste because they have different textures. I personally like them. So I hope you will be able to make them. I hope you liked the video. And obviously, if you have comments and likes, very much welcome.